Did you know that Cary Elwes kept his involvement in The Princess Bride a secret because he was so certain it would fail? Although it wasn't a hit when it was first released in 1987, Cary Elwes's portrayal of the dashing Westerner eventually became one of the most cherished cult movies of the 1980s. Charming, humorous, and quotable without end. Something odd occurred after The Princess Bride. He didn't become a household name, as many had anticipated. He appeared in comedies, a military movie, and even a blockbuster about a natural disaster, but by the early 2000s, he had essentially disappeared from the public eye. Then he returned without warning. What on earth happened to Cary Elwes, then? Let's go dark together. On October 26, 1962, Cary Elwes was born Ivan Simon Cary Elwes in Westminster, London. His mother was an interior designer, and his father painted portraits, thus his family had a long history in the arts. He developed a liking for performance at a young age since he was surrounded by art, history, and narrative. It was more than simply the arts, though. British aristocracy also played a significant role in Cary's upbringing. The Elwes family had long held a high position in English society, and his grandfather was a knight. Before relocating to the U.S. in his late teens to pursue acting studies, he attended Harrow, one of the best public schools in the United Kingdom. Before attending the Lee Strasberg Theatre and Film Institute in New York, Elwes received his training at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. His unique flexibility came from a blend of American method acting and traditional British stage training. He could portray psychological seriousness, screwball humor, and period drama without ever feeling miscast. His initial on-screen appearances were modest. A tiny part in Another Country, 1984, starring Colin Firth and Rupert Everett, and a supporting role in the British drama Yesterday's Hero, 1979. Even so, his composure and screen presence were noted. There was something about him, that calm confidence, the twinkle in his eye, that made you watch him even if he wasn't the loudest performer in the room. And that trait would net him the job of a lifetime in a matter of years. Cary was given the part that would define his career in 1987. Wesley, the farm child in The Princess Bride, who became a daring hero. The Princess Bride, which Rob Reiner directed and was based on William Goldman's book, was an odd combination. Part action movie, part comedy, part fairy tale, but with a sharp sense of humor and a great heart. Studios likely didn't know how to promote it because it was difficult to define. Although the movie wasn't a complete failure, it also didn't instantly make Elwes a household name. However, The Princess Bride eventually rose to prominence as one of the most cherished cult movies of its period. It was given new life by VHS rentals, word of mouth, and frequent cable showing, and Cary Elwes went from being a budding actor to a famous figure. He possessed the ideal balance of dry British wit and Errol Flynn charm as Wesley. Even when the dialogue was ridiculous, he kept it straight, and that's what worked. He was totally engaged with the camera, not just winking at it. The entire cast is full with legends when you look back. Andre the Giant, Wallace Shawn, Robin Wright, and Mandy Patinkin. But at the center of it all was Elvis. The action hero, the humorous straight man, and the romantic lead. And yet, he wasn't exactly in high demand by casting directors to be in their next great thing. He wasn't American, he wasn't a traditional action star, and he wasn't rough or intense. Additionally, despite becoming a classic, The Princess Bride didn't generate the kind of offers one might anticipate. Even though Cary Elwes was now well known, his Hollywood future was far from assured. Elwes started landing a number of reliable, varied jobs after The Princess Bride, indicating that Hollywood was at least taking notice. He starred in the 1989 Oscar-winning Civil War epic Glory, which also starred Matthew Broderick and Denzel Washington. Elwes portrayed Major Cabot Forbes, an aristocratic officer who struggled with his own sense of honor and the racial dynamics of the conflict. Elwes holds his own against a strong cast in this somber, emotionally charged movie. Cary wasn't finished with mainstream success, despite the fact that The Princess Bride made him famous. He co-starred with Tom Cruise in 1990's Days of Thunder, one of the biggest blockbusters of the time. In 1992, he made a fashionable appearance as Lord Arthur Holmwood in Francis Ford Coppola's lavish opera rendition of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Although Elwes wasn't the main character, he added a touch of Victorian flair to an already impressive cast in this gothic fever dream. He had an appearance in Hot Shots, a broad parody of Top Gun that allowed him to show off his comedic abilities. Surprisingly, he did a fantastic job portraying Charlie Sheen's maverick stand-in square-jawed opponent, Lieutenant Kent Gregory. His speech was deadpan, and his timing was impeccable. Kent Gregory was Errol Flynn's airplane parody, if Wesley was a reference to him. Then followed Robin Hood Men in Tights in 1993, which was likely his second most well-known part. Elwes was at the ideal sweet spot in this Mel Brooks-directed parody of Robin Hood and Prince of Thieves. He was able to spoof the Hollywood hero archetype while maintaining the character's sense of realism by striking the ideal balance between self-awareness and confidence. He even says one of the most well-known lines in the movie. Fans loved it, especially on home video, but once more, a pattern began to take shape. He was always terrific and frequently quite humorous. Likeable, but not necessary at all. Despite his charm and adaptability, he was relegated to supporting roles as the 1990s went on, and he was no longer starring in franchise blockbusters, action thrillers, or major studio dramas. Sure, Hollywood enjoyed his presence, but he was gradually fading into the background. Despite having a decent resume by the mid-1990s, including cult comedy hits, military dramas, and serious civil military epics, Cary Elwes was never firmly established as the go-to leading man, and his career stagnated rather than rising to the next level. Elwes portrayed Jonas, the sleek, corporately funded rival storm chaser to Bill Paxton's more gritty, blue-collar hero in Twister in '96, one of the decade's biggest box office hits. Although he did a good job in the role, it was obviously supporting and not really sympathetic. In the same year, he co-starred with a youthful Alicia Silverstone in The Crush. Although the movie has its followers, it didn't do much to advance his profile. It was a psychological thriller with a troubling edge. Next came the Jim Carrey comedy Liar Liar in 1997, in which Elwes portrayed Carrey's wild protagonist as the safe, uninteresting stepfather. Once more, he was fine, likable, and solid, but his main purpose was to provide Cary with someone to lean on. And that turned into the norm. He worked consistently during the ensuing years, although not many of the roles stood out. TV series, modest independent dramas, and infrequently an appearance in an ensemble comedy or network procedural. You might think, hey, that's the guy from Princess Bride, when you see him. But that was all. He never stopped working, to be fair. However, it seemed for a moment that Hollywood was unsure of how to proceed with him again, and had put his career on stop. Was simply in the industry. He wasn't out of it. In 1997, he played with Ashley Judd and Morgan Freeman in Kiss the Girls, one of his most underappreciated roles. Elwood portrayed a seemingly helpful doctor whose true participation in the plot takes a terrible turn in this tense psychological thriller based on the James Patterson novel. It was an opportunity to display her darker side, which was subdued, witty, and incredibly unnerving. Just a little reminder. If you haven't already, please click subscribe if you're enjoying the video so far. Because it takes a while to research and compile these videos, subscribing is an easy way to ensure you don't miss the next one. There will be a lot more soon. Cary Elwes again. However, things changed in the most unlikely way possible in 2004. Cary Elwes had one of the most surprising comebacks in contemporary genre cinema in 2004 when she starred in Saw, a gritty, low-budget horror film that would go on to become one of the most successful series ever. Admittedly, when his visage appeared in Saw, I did a double take. I'm a huge horror lover and clearly a fan of his previous roles, but I wasn't prepared to witness Cary Elwes screaming uncontrollably while chained to a wall in a filthy restroom. Elwes portrayed Dr. Lawrence Gordon, a surgeon who awakens to find himself in a locked room with a corpse between him and a stranger on the other side. Desperation, falsehoods, flashbacks, a gradual psychological decline, and one of the most unforgettable third-act surprises in contemporary horror are what come next. Yes, there is a foot scene. Wyatt is now a legend. It wasn't a comedic parody or a romantic lead, and for many people, it was their first time seeing Elwes in years. He dedicated himself to it, and it was unadulterated, sweaty, frightened horror. Saw's acting occasionally verges on melodrama, but that adds to its allure. That line is walked throughout the entire movie, and Elwes gives it his best. Elwes was later commended by director James Wan for being a good sport throughout a demanding, hectic filming. The movie, which cost little over $1 million to make, generated over $100 million worldwide. In addition to reviving the so-called torture porn subgenre and launching a franchise, it served as a reminder to Hollywood that Elwes, especially when played against type, still had something to give. He did not overuse it, to his credit. He left the direct sequels and only made a cameo in Saw 3D in 2010 to wrap up the story of his character. However, the message was unambiguous. Cary Elwes had more to do. Cary Elwes could have retreated into the background after Saw, but he took a more astute approach. He embraced his individuality. He started to appear in comedies, prestige dramas, and genre series, frequently performing the same role that viewers had recognized him for. Authority personalities who are charming, a little arrogant, and sometimes unreliable. A series of well-known guest appearances followed. Psych. Make use of leverage. The X-Files. Pieces of Life. He always brought the same polished, cunning, sometimes theatrical, and always entertaining Elwes charm. He appeared in Stranger Things Season 3 in 2019 as greasy Mayor Larry Klein, a dishonest politician from the Reagan era who felt like he was lifted from a Stephen King book. Despite being a minor role, it stole the show. He reminded younger audiences that the man from The Princess Bride was still a formidable presence and added just the perfect amount of sleaze. At about the same time, he appeared in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Mrs. Maisel, and even provided the voice of a character in The Adventures of Paddington. He has evolved into what is sometimes referred to be a modern professional actor, someone who can elevate a scene without having to be the film's protagonist. You recognize his voice and appearance, and you're happy to see him because he's Cary Elwes. In a sense, that's a level of job longevity that many of Flash's celebrities never truly experience. For Operation Fortune, he reteamed with Guy Ritchie to portray a government official enmeshed in farce and espionage. Then, in 2024, he co-starred with Henry Cavill in the true-life action comedy Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, effortlessly evoking classic British charm. He also appeared in Zack Snyder's space opera on Netflix, Rebel Moon. Although it wasn't particularly spectacular, in fact, it was terrible, it did serve as a reminder to viewers of Elwes's versatility throughout the entire extravaganza. He has maintained a pretty discreet personal life away from the screen. In 2000, he wed photographer Lisa Marie Kurbikoff, and the two of them have a daughter. Elwes has never really participated in the Hollywood game, and they have largely avoided the spotlight. His memoir, As You Wish, Inconceivable Tales from the Making of the Princess Bride, was published in 2014 and went on to become a New York Times bestseller. It's a heartwarming, humorous, behind-the-scenes look at the movie that made him famous and cemented his position as the film's steward and emissary. He continues to participate in movies and television shows and appears at ease there, working consistently, choosing parts that appeal to him, and occasionally shocking viewers by making a comeback. After The Princess Bride, Cary Elwes might not have had the successful career that some had anticipated. He was never Errol Flynn's successor. He pursued parts at Marvel and didn't star in franchises, but he discovered something else. Longevity, devotion, cult status, a position in the film industry independent of publicity. Furthermore, isn't it amazing that a single role may leave a lasting impression on people for generations to come? Despite all of his comedy, horror movies, cameos, and dramatic turns throughout the years, audiences continue to return to The Princess Bride. And Cary never failed to remind us why we initially fell in love with him, because to his voice, charm, and twinkle in the eye. And that one line still has a gentle, uncomplicated, and enduring resonance. Please like this video, and think about subscribing for more in-depth discussions if you liked it. In this way, it truly aids in the channel's growth, and I am grateful to everyone who has joined the adventure. As always, I'm forward to see everyone at the next one.